As parents, we have such beautiful opportunities to be intentional about the language we model for our children and the ways we can help improve their vocabulary skills. As someone who struggles with perfectionism, I want to quickly add that we don't need to be thinking about this all the time. It's so important to rest and relax and just enjoy life with our family. At the end of the day, parents are not their children's therapists, and this whole journey with DLD is supported by a whole big team, and I think that's important to remember. That being said, there are many small, manageable things we can do to help our kids with vocabulary development, and they don't need to overwhelm us. I'm going to list some out, and I hope you will find some ideas that you think you could implement with your family. Many of you will have already learned about narrating what you're doing as you go through life, so that your child is exposed to that language and learns new vocabulary words through multiple exposures. This can be done in the grocery store, as you walk to the park, or even as you pick up dirty laundry and throw it into the hamper at bedtime. At first, you could tell your child, "I'm putting the shirt in the hamper. Can you put the underwear in the hamper?" As they get older, you can add in new action words that make it fun, like tossing underwear in the hamper or chucking underwear into the hamper. Giggling about underwear while throwing it into the hamper is a win-win. Your child learns to be responsible with their clothes, they have exposure to a new word, and they get to be silly with you without any pressure at all. That doesn't even feel like learning. I love having a captive audience when I'm driving my kids somewhere in the car. Sometimes we just need quiet, or we just want to listen to music or an audiobook, and that is fine. But other times, I can have a captive audience where we play little games as I'm driving. As we've talked about before, our kids with DLD don't always store words efficiently in their mental dictionary. A great way to help with this is to play categorization games with your children, where they learn to make connections between words and start to recognize categories and subcategories. Rather than requiring your child to answer at the beginning of the game, you could just start out by just modeling appropriate types of responses. So you could say something like, "I'm trying to think of as many different colors as I can. Red, orange, purple, beige, turquoise," and then just pause and see if anybody jumps in with more colors. After having modeled listing out members of a category a few times so that your kid really catches on and feels confident and comfortable and has experienced success, you could make it a little bit more challenging, like, "Let's see if we can think of all the tools in Mommy's toolbox. Oh, I know that I've got some screwdrivers, I've got a hammer, I've got a wrench." And then you can pause and see if your kids can come up with any other names for tools as they make those connections between wrench, screwdriver, and so on, reinforcing that they are all members of the tool category. Now, you could actually also do this in the opposite way, where your game, instead of coming up with as many members of a category as you can see if your child can think of the category name. So, who knows what category I'm thinking of? It has coffee, tea, grape juice, smoothies, milkshakes, apple juice. What category or what group is that? And again, that helps your child to really understand relationships between words. And I also like to model different subcategories as well. So let's say we've already identified members of the animal category. Let's try breaking it down further and talking about forest animals, then sea animals, then farm animals, and so on. You can increase the level of difficulty as your child improves. Another fun game to play on a road trip or even just on the drive to dance lessons is providing a description and encouraging your kids to figure out what you're talking about by listening to your words describing the various attributes of a vocabulary word. So let me give you an example. I'm thinking about something that is a kind of fruit. We can pick this fruit on trees at Grandpa's house. They're usually round and red, or they're always round, and they're red or green usually. This fruit is juicy. It has little brown seeds inside of it. We like to bake them into pies sometimes, so who knows what I'm thinking about? It's apples. And then, if your child wants to, they can have a turn, and you can give them as much support and as many prompts or cues as they need to keep it light and fun while facilitating their success. This game is also great because it can help them develop skills they can use in the future if they experience lexical access, or like we said before, that's word finding difficulty. So if your child can't think of the word that they want to use, rather than getting stuck in their frustration, they can think about their own thinking. With strong executive function skills, the child can recognize, right now I am having trouble thinking of the word I want to say. I know sometimes word finding is hard for me. I can use my strategies to help me figure out the word. So I can describe the item's appearance, function, category, the parts it has, the beginning sound if I know it, or maybe something else I associate with it. And if I still can't think of the word, I can share this information with someone else. So for example, your child might say, Mom, I'm thinking of that thing we use to clean up leaves in the fall. It has a long wooden handle, and then a part at the bottom that collects the leaves. Can you help me remember what word that is? Playing I Spy or 20 questions, those are also great things that you can do in the car. We've talked quite a bit in this course about written instructions and homework that may be filled with new vocabulary words. As your child gets older, they may encounter tricky or unfamiliar vocabulary words in the written instructions. They may be told to represent something or justify something or describe, evaluate, explain, identify. Well, what do those words mean? It's important that your child understands what exactly they're being asked to do. If your child is told to identify in one step and then justify in another step, do they know what that means? You can ask your child's therapist or special ed teacher to provide you with a glossary for some of these words that your child can access as a handy visual support. Now, we know that it's not always possible to have prior access to a word definition, but we almost always have access to technology. One thing that I love to do with my students is go on Google Dictionary. If I type in justify on Google Dictionary, the definition says show or prove to be right or reasonable. Now, that's a pretty simple definition, but often the definitions on there are quite complicated and very hard for our kids with DLD to understand. There are other kids' dictionaries online with simplified definitions you can use, but even so, sometimes those definitions are still really hard to follow. So, if I'm using Google Dictionary with a student and the student has evaluated their understanding of the definition and realized they still don't get it, I can praise the student for their attention and level of awareness that they know that they don't know what the word means, and that's huge. If the child is not quite at the level of consistently recognizing when they do not know the meaning of a word, then you can use reflexive questioning to help them develop that skill. I also like to equip students with another strategy that they can learn to implement independently. So when we're using Google Dictionary, I teach them to look for that green word similar below the definition. Well, now it gives a bunch of similar words, so the child can ask themselves, which of these do I recognize? Oh, it says give reasons for. That's number 2 in the similar word list. You can look at other ones too. Vindicate? Well, I don't know what vindicate means. I'm not going to use that one. What about give an explanation for, give reasons for? Your child can be an active learner and tell themselves, okay, well, I didn't really understand the definition, but when I saw that green word similar, I found some phrases I understood that made sense in the context. If somebody told me to justify something, it means give reasons for. Okay, now I know what I need to know so that I can be successful. And again, recognizing that they do not understand a word, knowing what to do when they encounter an unfamiliar word, and then doing what they need to do so they can understand it, really that's not something that I see very often when I meet a child with DLD, even at the middle or high school level. We want to start by using reflexive questioning and praising our child for recognizing that they don't understand a word, because that means they've thought about their own degree of comprehension, and that is a huge step. Perhaps the unfamiliar word they encounter is not in an instruction, but maybe it's in a paragraph their teacher has assigned to them as reading homework. So let's say your child encounters the word segregation. Perhaps they're using the read aloud software and they hear that word segregation. As an active learner, your child can identify the fact that they do not know the meaning of this word. Then you can use reflexive questioning to help them decide what to do next. Perhaps they end up telling their phone to look up the definition for segregation, and it says, the act or process of segregating, the state of being segregated. Okay, that's useless. That doesn't help at all. So they could try reading the second meaning, which is the separation or isolation of a race, class, or ethnic group by enforced or voluntary residence in a restricted area by barriers to social intercourse, by separate educational facilities, or by other discriminatory means. What? There are so many other big words in that definition, and it's so long, that probably won't help either. A child who has not taken ownership of their own learning may think, this is useless. Why am I even trying this? I should just skip the word. Why would I even bother trying to figure it out? I don't get this. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's easier to just skip it. But then, if they skip it, they're that much more confused and frustrated later on because they have no idea what they're reading about, right? This is where we want that inner voice we have developed through reflexive questioning to kick in and help regulate the child. So that inner voice could remind them why they need to think flexibly and how to do so. So they need to go down and look at the synonyms, the similar words, and they will probably find a word that they know. Your child may understand the word aloneness or the word isolation, and those are listed under there. Maybe they understand the word separate or separateness. Once your child has found a similar word they recognize, they can substitute that word in the sentence they have read, and maybe then it'll make sense with the other words in the sentence. Speak with your child's therapist about substituting in known words and how you can help your child use context clues to be successful. We want our children to get to the point where they can say, I know for myself that sometimes I come across words in a passage or words that I'm listening to in my read aloud software or words in an instruction, and I don't understand them. So I have a choice. Do I just keep on going and get more and more and more confused? Or do I stop and use my strategy? I can try looking up the definition. If I don't understand the definition, what do? I look for a similar word. I try substituting it into the sentence and seeing if that makes sense. Does this fit with the other stuff that I've read that I did understand? If so, good. I'm good to go. I can keep on going now. I'm not going to be as confused as I was before because I'm not just skipping everything I don't understand. I'm taking action to help myself so that I get what I need so that I can be successful. In terms of vocabulary and math word problems, it can be helpful to highlight key words in the problem to help the child determine what type of math is involved. For example, when I see the word combined or the words altogether, I know I need to use addition. But when I see the words remain or how many more, I know I need to use subtraction. So I would advise you check in with your child's teacher to get a handy legend for your child to help them recognize keywords that tend to be used for different types of math operations. There are many of these available online as well. Be in ongoing communication with your child's team so that your child has the support they need and can consult regularly to be successful.